Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Becca, can you take roll?
Okay, Director Underhill,
Here.
Director Davidson,
Here.
Director Thomas,
Here.
Director Cicada,
Here.
and Director Ratterman.
Here. Okay, public comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on any non-agendized item. The public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for board consideration. No action can be taken on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Any public comment today? Online, anybody? Online, you see? Okay. Consent agenda. Got 3 items. 3A, approval of minutes from the board meeting of January 26. A report on the monthly investment transactions for January 22. And reauthorizing remote teleconference meeting of the Board of Directors of the Calaveras County Water District pursuant to AB 361.
Move acceptance.
Becca, can you take the roll?
Yes. Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Ratterman.
Yes. Okay, item 4, new business. Discussion action to approve the purchase of a 2019 14-yard Freightliner dump truck. Damon.
Good afternoon, directors. On the January 26th CCWD board meeting, the board adopted a budget amendment to increase property tax revenue by 125, or to add that into the expenditure for a purchase of a dump truck. So CCWD staff went out and inspected 2 dump trucks. One was a 2017 Freightliner with right around 73,000 miles on it. And the other was a 2019 with 46,000 miles on it. The 2017 came in at an asking price of 111,000, while the 2019 came in at an asking price of 131,000. And so the ask is that the board approve the purchase of the newer dump truck with half the miles, with a purchase price of 131,000. This is about $6,000 over the approved January 26th expenditure of 125.
What was mileage on the 21 again?
The 2019 has 46,000 miles on it, and then the 2017 has 73,000.
Oh, 17. Okay, I'm looking. All right.
Yeah, and so, you know, when field staff went to take a look at these vehicles, it was clear that the 2019 is in much better shape. The district can get a lot more miles, pardon the pun, out of the 2019 than they can out of the 2017.
Do you ever ask any questions about what kind of jobs are normal?
In terms of
If,
when we look at
the
these,
use of the truck, I mean,
yeah, we do, and it's often clear. I mean, so if you have a vehicle that's 2 years older but has, you know, twice the miles, you can see that it's been used significantly more, and the bed of the 2017 was really beat up. So we know that one's been put out to use much more than the 2019 has. You know, we've actually, during this capital outlay budget year, if you will, we actually had a request to purchase a water truck. We brought the water truck on site, and we have our mechanics inspect the vehicles, and we actually sent that vehicle back because we noticed an issue with its rear end. So we have staff, if we bring it, you know, once we have field staff go take a look and they say this is the vehicle or the piece of equipment we want to purchase, when we bring either to the district facility, say we drive it to La Cantena, we'll have our mechanics inspect it, or we'll send our mechanics to the site to inspect whatever the piece of equipment is.
where is this truck coming from?
This one is a US Rentals, I believe. Let me double check. No, it's actually Holt. So this one's coming out of Stockton.
So it's flat land.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right.
Well, it's a rental. You don't know where it's been,
Oh.
who rented it.
Right. Hopefully it stayed in the area, but
Is it powerful enough for our upcountry?
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
300 horsepower,
Yeah.
Same as mine,
same as yours,
my pickup.
same as your pickup, yeah.
Yeah.
Does it have an Allison or a Perkins, or what the hell is it? What kind of an engine does it have on?
Any more
That's it.
comments,
For
questions?
acceptance.
Second,
I do.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Oh, wait, I just have a comment. What is the expected amount of mileage you'll get out of the vehicle?
Well, so in consideration of the California Air Resources Board Clean Fleet Rule, which is going to require electric vehicles post 2027. So we're going to get as many miles out of this vehicle as we absolutely can. So currently with the Air Resources Board's CARB rule, this is a tier 1 motor, so it meets all air emissions compliance requirements. So they have not changed that rule as of yet. So we can drive this vehicle and repair this vehicle as long as we can keep it on the road.
But they'll go 500,000 miles without.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So
With,
when they're saying that in the year 2027, you said they expect to have electric vehicles, we'll still be able to drive this truck, at least with today's rules.
That's correct. That's right.
And so what I'm asking, what for a vehicle like this, what is the expected amount of mileage that anybody would put on a vehicle like this, regardless of what CARB says?
Well, we could put 500,000 miles on this vehicle doing the work that we're going to do within Calaveras County, provided that we maintain it as required, no problem.
And not expect any significant repairs. I mean,
Right,
it's typical for these guys to run these things 1,000,000 miles.
right.
I mean, it may take some maintenance, but.
That's correct.
Damon, one quick question. What is how many years will it take to get to that 500,000 that you're talking about? And based on historic.
1 year.
Oh, it's
Historically.
gonna take a significant amount of time if you consider.
10 years, 5 years?
I would say 10 years easy.
Okay.
I mean, if you consider the workload that we have just in replacing service laterals in Copper and Rancho, we're going to stay close in those service areas, if you will. We have yards in both service areas. So if we need to dump material 3 miles away from where we're working in Rancho, it's going to be a significant amount of time.
Okay.
So-
The other,
So
go ahead, Cindy.
Okay, so if you were buying this truck for your own personal use and you were spending $136,000 or $131,000, do you feel confident that you'll be able to get at least 10 years out of it, even with the way California is going? And the reason
Yes.
why I'm asking this is we're spending $131,000. So if you think that the CARB rules, the way California is going, is going to change, should we buy one with more miles, less money, knowing that we're only going to be able to use it for maybe 5 years?
Well, that's part of what makes this vehicle so appealing, is that the newer engine family gives us that leeway to push this vehicle for as long as we can absolutely use it, which I would say would be 10 plus years, because it meets
Okay.
the tier 1 engine compliance now. So there's no,
Okay.
within the next 5 years, we're going to have to mothball this vehicle. This vehicle meets all the requirements that the CARB has laid out in their fleet program now.
Okay, so I'm going to hold you to that.
Gotcha.
Rebecca, you make sure that you note that Damon says, we expect, based on the engine family, that we're going to get 10 years out of it. Holding you to that.
We can paint it on the truck.
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
Well, it's a lot of money, and I know we have the need for it. That all makes sense. But, it's a lot of money. It's easy to spend other people's money. Okay, I'm good.
I just want to make a comment, it's, even if we only use it for 60 months, that's like $2,200 a month.
Right.
Which, and I'll tell you, the whole the rental fleet right now it's hard to even get equipment, you know, and I have a lot of rock haul. And, you know, it's not like the old days where everybody was available. It's sometimes
right.
you're a week out. So it's even just the ability of our staff to be able to get on projects, you know, in a timely manner. So we're not necessarily dependent on subcontractors. I see, you know, this as a complete benefit. So
Yep,
I think
I
we'll be
agree.
fine.
I'd like to know about the exterior. It looks pretty, but you know.
Yeah, I mean,
Very important.
I don't know if you guys have any comments about the exterior. I mean, a white Freightliner. There's been songs written about white Freightliners. They're great. They're great trucks. I think it's an automatic. The bed is in excellent condition. That's something that we look at, that the crew looked at. And it's going to be a really useful tool for the district.
Could we hear
How
one of
about
those
the-
songs, by the way?
Towns,
I
Van
have
Zandt.
another- I have another question. So what's the cost gonna be to retrofit this, you know, with our radios and any other thing that you're gonna come back to us and say, oh, we need to spend this and that to make it, you know, CCWD?
So we have
You know what I mean?
stickers, we have radios on the shelf. So all the vehicles that we've decommissioned and sold back to Enterprise, we pull all the radios out and we use those in new vehicles when we receive them. So we have a cache of all of that equipment that we can deploy on this truck and get it up and rolling.
And we'd like to have
Okay,
that
so-
song on the radio that, with white Freightliners.
Yeah, okay.
Playing constantly if we could do that too.
Yeah, we could do that,
So-
no problem.
I'm gonna hold you to that too, Damon. I don't, you know, next month, I don't wanna have something on the agenda that says, we need to spend this much money because we need to get blah, blah, blah for the truck. Okay?
Understood. Got it.
What are the other uses? I mean,
Yeah.
so what do we tow our equipment with now? Do we have to have it moved or?
Well, yeah, we use our truck to tow a lot of our equipment. We have towed trucks or towed equipment with 1 tons and bigger, but this will help facilitate our ability to tow more equipment also.
Okay.
Yeah, this will basically create a sealed unit, if you will, for the underground crew. And then if this needs to be deployed elsewhere for whatever means, it's going to just provide us that much flexibility. We can haul rock, we can haul material, we can move equipment, we can, you know, the sky's the limit, really.
And Cindy's going to hold
Damon,
you to that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, understood.
You know, it's just all about, in fact, the next item, I'm sure that'll be brought up. But, is there like a blue book type value on these type of vehicles, like on regular cars?
There is, yeah. So this is a
Now,
really
what's the
good
blue book
value.
on this?
I'm not sure what the blue book on this truck is specifically, but the newer trucks are closer to, you know, 180,000, 185,000.
I've actually been looking, not to purchase one, but a friend of mine was looking to get into, buy a couple of water trucks. And this is right in the ballpark with what I've been seeing
Yeah.
out there, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a question. The picture shows excellent rubber on this thing. Has that been photoshopped or we got to spend 10,000 on it?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that. I mean, this is the vehicle. Yeah, this is it. Yeah.
For a rental truck, it's in good shape.
And that rollover tarp and everything is in good shape as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing with the 2019 also is, it already has the pintle hook on the back and the airline ran to the back, so it's ready to hook up to our trailer. The other ones didn't have that, so we would have had to run airlines and put the glad hands and everything.
And then Cindy would have been annoyed.
All
Hey, no,
over-
wait,
all over
I'm
this.
coming in now. I'm coming in now. How many miles you're gonna get on these tires before you come to us and say you have to buy tires for it?
We're not gonna have the tire Nazi again. We had that before.
The tire nuts.
Okay, I think we've gone deep into this vehicle. Any other board comments?
I think that Bertha will look excellent in the back of this thing in the parade.
On her throne. Okay, any public comment? Becca, can you take roll?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Radaman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Damon. Okay, stay right there. 4B, discussion action to approve the purchase of a 2021 Ford F-550 4x4 bucket truck.
Okay.
Expect the same scrutiny, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so the staff report identified 23 different, I want to be clear because there was a typo in the staff report, identified 23 different locations where there are data collectors. So these data collectors exist throughout the AMI network. There are actually 33. 23 of those are on 50-foot poles. So you have 23 50-foot poles, 10 feet into the ground. At the outset of the implementation of the AMI project, Ebbets Pass was only going to be radio read. So when we made the amendment to that project and we incorporated the pass as part of the AMI network overall, that basically created the number of power or poles that we need to implement, and it added it by 10. So we have 10 poles that were increased as part of the additional project for AMI. So we have basically 33 different sites that require aerial work as part of the AMI project. 23 of those are on poles, which don't have, it's difficult, they're difficult to climb.
How high are they?
They're 50 feet long, they're 40 feet high, so they're 10 feet into the ground, roughly. So say 42, 43 feet. Bucket truck can reach over 40 feet. And so as this project started to come on board, the field staff realized we're going to need to secure a bucket truck. So this is going to be a capital outlay request item moving into the forthcoming fiscal years. And the incorporation of this project. And one key item, the fact that when we discussed the need with USDA and asked them if we could fund it through the project, and the USDA approved, kind of spurred the request sooner. It's coupled with the fact that we're going to be picking this project up towards the end of this fiscal year. We realized that it was probably an opportune time to pull the trigger on the purchase of this piece of equipment. So a couple things associated with that fact is when we start to think about the maintenance long-term that the AMI project's going to require, excuse me, we looked at whether or not we could get a tow behind boom lift and whether or not we could put that on the side of the road. A lot of these 40+ foot data collector towers are on the public, on the right of way, the county right of way more often, which is on the shoulder of the road oftentimes. So they're kind of up an embankment and kind of lateral from where the access is. So if you can imagine trying to put a boom lift, which just has outriggers and it's run by a, I believe is it a compressor that runs a boom lift, or is it it's a small pony motor that runs a boom lift. It's like propane powered or something. You put these outriggers on, then you try to reach out. It's unsafe to try to reach out to a 40+ foot tower to do maintenance work on a solar panel. So, or a maintenance work on a data collector antenna. So the fact that a boom truck can reach not only vertically, but can reach out safely is a big sell for the district in terms of our ability to make use of the piece of equipment. A couple other things are the fact that, okay, so the loan will purchase the truck, right? They approved, okay, you can purchase the truck under the loan. It doesn't make any sense to buy a piece of equipment under 40-year terms. It's a very low interest rate. But when you couple that with the fact that, if to Director Thomas's point made previously in engineering committee and in board meetings, if we were to, the surplus associated with all the scrap brass is roughly around $180,000. So this truck is roughly $136,000. So if we were able to then receive all this proceeds from the scrap meters and then turn around and pay that to USDA, which is a requirement, we would essentially be paying for the truck and then some, were we to look at it that way. It's one way of looking at it. You can also, another aspect to consider is, and I can dive into the details associated with that. So we took 1,000 meters, and they weighed 4,920 pounds. And so at a cost per pound of 285, that's roughly 14,000 bucks. So that's 1,000 meters. So if you multiply that by 13,000 meters is roughly 180 grand.
Some of those meters were heavier than 4 pounds apiece, though.
That's right. This is an average weight of 5 pounds.
Okay.
So give or take either side of that, of that line, if you will, it's going to be, but it's going to be over 136,000. I can tell you that. So there's that. And then the way capital outlay items work within the budget is we allocate those funds for those purchases at the beginning of the fiscal year, but we might not actually spend that money until late in the fiscal year. For instance, the generators, we allocated 185,000 for generators at the beginning of last fiscal year. And we've only spent roughly 80,000 because we received notice that one of our projects was under consideration for a FEMA grant. And as time has gone on, we needed to basically set aside funds to cover our portion of a required match should FEMA decide to fund us money for a critical facility generator replacement program, which was what the grant application was for. However, what we found now between now and July 1st, FEMA is not going to pull the trigger on awarding grants for this project. So there's a high likelihood that based on the fact that we were sitting waiting with this money to show FEMA, hey, yes, we have our required match to cover under this grant funded project, that's never going to happen. And we're going to have sat on, for lack of a better term, $100,000. So there's an opportunity within the existing capital outlay budget to cover most, if not all, of this purchase right out of the gate. So another component I think that's important to touch upon related to the bucket truck is the fact that for most other work, we usually make use of a climber. So we have one certified climber on staff, and that certified climber is required to have a certified harness, and that harness is supposed to be inspected annually by a competent person. And so the district can send that out and have it inspected. It can also train to the tune of $4,000 or $5,000 an internal competent person. But anyway you slice it, if we don't move forward with the bucket truck, we're going to need to rent one when we need to do work on these poles. But all the other work that we could do with a bucket truck, like replacing lights, addressing antennas, inspecting the roofs of tanks, climbing the telemetry towers that we have throughout the district, we're going to have to really kind of up the number of climbers that we have. We've just lost them through retirement, mostly. So we're going to need to have at least 4 or 5 climbers on staff. They're all going to have harnesses. They're all going to have to be certified. So that's going to be an ongoing cost. So I also went back and our staff was great. They helped me kind of understand. We've rented a bucket truck on the books 8 times in the last couple of years. It's about $12,000 that we've spent on renting a bucket truck just for work that we have throughout the district that couldn't be completed by a climber. So that work will be eliminated. So I recognize that it's a high cost, but there's also a lot of benefit in terms of safety associated with the aerial work. And so another item to consider is oftentimes we're asking staff to climb not only with their harness, but with a bag of tools and with a backpack with the replacement item, be it an antenna or a battery or a solar panel. And using a bucket truck is just a safer way to get that work done, so they can stash the solar panel or their tools in the bucket of the truck as they go up and go to complete the work. And then finally, after hours work, it's often hard to find folks that you can get, on short order to go complete work if it's 10 o'clock at night. And so we might be able to, but there's no guarantee. So if we have critical work that has to happen, say in a snowstorm or in an atmospheric river event, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, if we have this piece of equipment on hand, we can go get it done.
Well, from a safety aspect, that,
Right.
there's no question. The fact that, we could use the bucket and he doesn't have to carry all those things.
And that's the consensus amongst staff, and that's really why, after taking a look at the tow behind boom lift, it became clear that there are a lot of safety risks associated with deploying one of those, especially in a storm or in a snow, or trying to reach horizontally. Is just, we would end up having to rent a bucket truck.
Damon, I have personally used one of those tow behind lifts, and it's a little bit like an amusement ride. It's
Right.
bounces and moves a lot. So
Yeah.
I'm not in favor of that. I would be very much more inclined to vote positively for this if you would have included a picture.
Gotcha.
Is it gonna be-
Apologies for that.
Is it going to be white?
It is going to be white.
Okay, all right.
Are there any songs written about it?
I don't know any bucket trucks.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, we utilize, four-wheel drive, boom lifts quite often. What's if we went out and purchased a 60-foot boom lift and we have the truck that can haul it around and the trailer that can haul it around, what's the drawback again? Because those are pretty nimble.
I mean, we talked about that, and the one concern that we have there is, would we have the tractor to be able to drive that low boy around with that four-wheel drive lift on it? And is that more money than just buying a F-550?
We just bought the truck to haul it around.
Well, so if that's, I mean, I guess we could look at it that way. If that's, going to be deployed, replacing service
Well, I mean,
laterals,
just the operational maintenance of any
Yeah.
big vehicle in California is expensive.
I mean,
And a boom lift, I mean, four-wheel drive boom lift, I mean, I think if we're looking at a 50-foot boom truck, it would seem to me that a 60-foot boom lift, and
Yeah.
we already have the trailer, we already have the truck. I would just like to know the drawbacks of why we wouldn't purchase that.
yeah, I mean, we discussed
Can I
that.
jump in here for a second?
Talk with the electricians, there's
Can I jump in?
Just a minute, Cindy.
What?
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, why did we locate these repeater sites in locations we couldn't get to?
Well, so the repeater sites, it's all about whether or not they have line of sight to the other site. So it's really focused on being able to get the information to the office. And so it might have to sit on the knob of a hill in a neighborhood that's not
Well-
easily acceptable.
Well, right, so that's how
accessible.
these things operate, and a truck is gonna, I mean, if you could drive a truck to the site with a 50-foot lift, you can drive a 60-foot four-wheel drive boom lift to the site as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me,
I mean, I guess I'd have to see how it's so different than that, and honestly, I think a boom lift, would be perhaps even more mobile. I mean, yeah, we have to have it driven to the
right.
job site and trailer, but, it
I mean, I think,
happens all the time. I mean,
right, yeah. So one of the discussions that we had is having it, we would have to purchase another trailer to be able to deploy it quickly, or else you're going to have to locate, do we have the equipment stored in Vallecito? Do we have is the dump truck there? Can we go grab a trailer and lock antenna, go grab the boom lift, take it to where we need to go? Was one of the considerations.
Is this a typical emergency operation or is it a maintenance deal?
It's going to be both. I mean,
What's the emergency that would happen on a repeater site?
we would lose it. So during the atmospheric river storm over Christmas, we lost the 30-foot tower at the Hunter's water treatment plant was hit by a branch, and the snow load basically broke the bottom 10 feet, and it knocked the communication antenna off, which tells us the level of all the tanks up on the pass. So in order to be able to understand what the tank level was, we needed to restore that communication. So we had to, luckily, we were able to grab a hold of that antenna and put it on the roof temporarily. But even that, I mean, when you think about the fact that you have a roof with 2.5 feet of snow on it, and you have field staff up there after hours, it's a dangerous effort. So there are definitely times where we're going to have to use this in an emergency. But yeah,
Just out of curiosity, I mean, obviously, would it be half as much?
a boom lift.
Yeah.
Did you look at prices associated with the boom lift? We talked about.
Boom was, but I want to see.
Well, the tow behind ones, that's like, that ain't the right
I'd
tool.
have to see what kind of boom lift that we're talking, because I like had to drive some in the poker platform. We got to go uphill in the snow around one of these things. The one that I have for a flat, you'd be scared to death doing that, not boom lift. I mean, you were talking about riding the bucket, driving it from there. No way, man, that's gonna be a little scary.
Well, you don't drive them up. You drive
You're
them.
driving down the skill with the thing bouncing like that. It's gonna be way easier going in there with the truck, and it's gonna be way easier, way quicker, way safer, especially like yesterday in the snow conditions. And, when I go to the electricians and say, here, the engineer told us to get a bucket truck. So I go in and say, what do you guys want? What is best for you guys to use? This is what they said they wanted. That's the best, safest, and easier for them. I've driven a few of those.
Well, let me tell you something. My guys love it when one of those shows up, because usually they're 30 foot up on a damn ladder.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey,
Right.
Cindy, go ahead. You got a question? You got the floor.
So if I can just talk with Damon for a minute. There's no picture of this. Is this like a regular truck, like say a PG&E truck, some kind of a lift on, a regular
That's
truck
correct.
with this lift? Okay. And
Yeah,
so
it's
have you done any, okay, I get it. So have you done any analysis, if we were to hire a company to regularly maintain these and be on call to give emergency repairs to, you got the, and because like, I'm thinking we have to train staff that, I think you said, what, $4,000 a piece to train. You have to have somebody
That's to
certified
climb.
to,
That's to train staff
Okay,
to use climbing equipment.
okay.
So we don't have
And
to do that
so-
if we have a bucket truck.
So,
and
so we're
then
actually renting
also-
if I could just,
Go ahead.
we're actually renting a bucket truck and driver tomorrow to put an antenna on our flume court tank in Arnold, because we have to get an antenna on there and we don't have the proper equipment to get up there to do so. So that's about a $2,000 effort because you don't only rent the bucket truck, you rent the driver, the operator. So the one that we
So-
have identified, the owner it's 136,000. The owner will hold it until after today. And then the other ones that we've identified are to the tune of 170,000. So we've been able to
So
find one at a,
let me finish saying what I was gonna finish saying here. So did
it.
anybody do an analysis? I'd like, you want it for regular maintenance and emergency. So what does a regular maintenance consist of? If we had a third party that we outsourced at, $2,000 a month to do this all, or whatever that max number is it cheaper doing that instead of investing, roughly $140,000, $140,000? Are we going to use it that much to where we'll get the 140 out of it right away? Or, I just wanted to know, did you guys do your homework? We have to hire people, they get trained, and now they get paid more money because now they're a client or added onto their certificate.
That's
does
if we
it
don't
make
buy
sense
the bucket
to buy
truck.
this? Is it make sense to buy this? So don't they have to be trained on using a bucket truck? Anyway, I just want somebody to do the financial analysis or have already done so that tells me, yes, this is the best way to go. That's all. It's just like, here we are again. When we put in this AMI project, nobody had the wherewithal to think, hey, how are we going to fix these? Why was this not thought of during the whole when we're talking about doing this upgrade, nobody thought about how we're going to maintain this?
So if you recall at the beginning of the discussion here, I talked about the fact that the pass was initially going to be a radio red network. And that was an approved addendum to the contract actually about a year ago, a little less than a year ago. It was March of 21. So and like I was telling you, a bucket truck would have been a capital outlay item request here within a year, regardless of that fact, simply because, just to kind of reiterate, if we purchase a bucket truck, this reduces the amount of training associated with climbing. This reduces the amount of harnesses that we need to purchase. And this also reduces the amount of contracts or rental agreements that we would have to enter into for that work. So if you were to think about, the financials associated with it, we've spent $12,000 within the last 3 years to rent bucket trucks, but we've also climbed numerous towers with staff, and we've also actually hired climbers to the tune of about $1,500 a day to do aerial work that's independent of the need for a bucket truck. And so part of the contemplation about the benefits associated with a bucket truck are that you can eliminate some of the climbing efforts because you now have a piece of equipment that can do aerial work. And from a safety perspective, not having to carry whatever replacement piece of equipment you're going to have to use on your back, and the fact that you can put it in the truck, the bucket itself of the truck, is a huge benefit. And so when you couple all of those considerations with the fact that we're going to recycle about $180,000 worth of brass and give that to the USDA, it seems like it's kind of an elegant opportunity to improve safety at the district and also facilitate work efforts, really without overextending ourselves financially.
So what is what's a typical maintenance? What does that maintenance program look like for this?
Well, it would be an F550 diesel truck. So it's going to be the same maintenance that we have.
I don't mean on the truck. I mean on the AMI stuff, the radio equipment that we want to buy to use this to help maintain that. What is typical maintenance for all these radios?
So every controller tower has a solar array associated with it. So in the wintertime, particularly up on the pass with these 10 towers up on the pass, you're going to have to remove all the snow that collects on those solar panels to ensure that they communicate effectively. You're going to have to replace antenna towers periodically, coax cable over time. I mean, there's a whole host of responsibilities or maintenance aspects with the AMI network. But the other consideration is we have, I don't even know, the electricians would be able to tell you off the top of their heads how many radios we deploy throughout CCWD's service area, but most of these have antenna that are on 30-foot towers. And so all of the coax equipment associated with the radios and all of those antenna are going to have to, they're always maintained. So we routinely are addressing issue with a radio every other week throughout CCWD. So that's climbing, or that's getting on top of a tank, whether it has a stairway or a ladder, to address whatever issue we might have with an antenna.
Where would this vehicle be deployed from usually? Here?
Here, right here.
So I think that's actually an important point, because I think the way we're thinking of this is essentially be the primary vehicle for one of our electricians, right?
We definitely do that, yes.
It's not as if we're, buying this extra additional piece of equipment that isn't going to get used very often. It's going to get used all the time. Arguably there was a need for it even before the AMI network went into place. And now even USDA has agreed, and USDA agrees to these things because they're concerned about the investment that they're making in our infrastructure, and they want to know that we have the tools to maintain it for the life of the loan, if we were to go that route. And there's two, as Damon mentioned, there's two different options here. We can, because we have that USDA approval, we can roll it into the loan on very favorable financing terms. And we're already anticipating that the goal for that loan is to pay it off in 15 years, even though it has a much longer term on it. But we know, we don't want to pay debt service on equipment that has a shorter lifespan than the debt. So we're already anticipating paying that off sooner rather than later, and it's a very good chance this truck could last that long. But we also know, as Damon covered, but I just think it's important to reiterate, we have room in the budget this year, in the capital outlay budget, because of other things that were not purchased, to purchase this truck without a budget increase. And our staff have identified this as the high priority need and as the best tool for the job. And they evaluated the other options. I talked to one of the electricians about it myself. They looked at other options, and as Mike, I think appropriately pointed out, they're the experts at this work in the field, and they're the ones that said this is the right tool for the job. So I certainly respect their judgment on this and defer to them on it.
Can you please repeat who will be using this? You said it's going to be part of somebody's daily job.
This will be an electrical department truck. So one of the electricians will drive this truck. That eliminates, if we were to get a manned boom lift, we would need one of our Class A drivers to trailer that thing around and to put it where we told them we need it. With this truck, electrician can jump in and do their work, and also the work requested by treatment operators to inspect tanks, what have you. Replace lights here, replace lights at any
So that,
facility.
this person is already on payroll. We don't have to go out.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, let me bring up just something. Over the last couple of days, I met someone who he's registered as a power person who deals with high wire and all that. He's paid 24 hours a day, 24 hours a day, $60 to $70 an hour because of what he, the ability that he has.
Yeah.
And that was quite amazing to me.
Yeah, I hear you.
So that, thinking of the money that we're investing is,
Right.
Okay, getting back to the financing options, am I to understand that you are going to essentially borrow or increase the amount of money we're borrowing from USDA because they said that it would be allowable, but when the brass is sold, you're going to immediately pay down the USDA principal with the proceeds?
That's one way we could do this, yes. The other way is we could take advantage of existing capital outlay funds to purchase the truck.
So
Well,
that
either-
would be, we have those options. My recommendation would be, because we have room in the capital outlay budget this year, even though these are really good borrowing terms, if we don't have to finance it and we don't have to increase the budget for this year, we purchase the truck using capital outlay funds, and we reduce the balance, the principal that we would otherwise have to repay on the USDA loan with the full 180,000 or whatever it's going to be in scrap value. And we save that. We're not financing the vehicle, and we're reducing the principal on the debt by that amount. To me, because we have that as an option available to us, I think that would be the best way to go. And I don't know, Jeff, if that sounds good to you too, but that to me would be my recommendation. So we have room in the budget for it right now because of other purchases that we're not anticipating making this year.
and let's get those meters delivered so that the check
Amen.
can be in the mail. Yeah.
Okay, this is an action item. We're looking for a motion if we're going to move on this or not.
I make a motion
I'll say it.
to purchase the,
Okay, we got a motion to purchase a 2021 Ford F-550 4x4 bucket truck from Commerce Truck and Equipment Sales for a purchase price of $137,189.59. Any further comment from the board? Cindy?
Yeah, how, on that motion, should we say how we should pay for it, whether it comes out of, funds or gets rolled into the,
I think Director of Finance back here is shaking his head that we should use the extra money than our budget this year as opposed to this USDA loan. And I think that what was suggested by Michael and Damon.
May I speak?
Yeah, go ahead. Come on up.
come on up.
Good afternoon, everyone. It would be best to, within the recommendation, that you direct staff to use existing resources.
Right.
So it's very clear in the resolution and clear to staff.
Okay, you want to revise your motion to
What am I
include
gonna say
exactly
this time?
what, Becca, did you get what Jeff said there? Okay,
What Jeff said.
right. Yes, that's, we got a revised motion on regarding purchasing funds and how they're going to be used and the two options that are discussed. Russ, you seconded it,
I think I seconded
Oh, you-
it, but, so I'll second it again, but to restate that so we can get
Yeah.
from the
Sure.
board.
Certainly, it is our recommendation that the board directs staff to use existing budgeted funds, existing funds within the current capital outlay budget to pay for the purchase of the bucket truck and direct staff to do so.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to do that?
Yeah, everything that Jeff said is my motion.
I'll second.
okay, and we're
Thank you.
looking for public comment. Becca, you take the roll?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
I don't vote no very often, but I'm going to vote no on this just because doggone it. I don't like the fact that this company is saying, we have to make a decision on this today, otherwise the truck is going to go away. That's a pretty old tried and true tactic that I don't appreciate. So it's going to pass, but I'm not going to vote against it. So
Director Cicada,
I'm going to say no as well, just for the fact that it seems like we have so much to us and say, oh, we need this, so I'm going to say no.
okay, and Director Ratterman.
Yes. Thank you, Damon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item passes 3-2. Reports, item number 5, General Manager's report, Michael.
All right, we're on track for a quick meeting, so I will try to keep this short. Huge effort underway, has been for quite some time now, but especially in these last few weeks, to get meters installed and to integrate the new AMI meters with our billing software and get accurate reads out. Even as we speak today, that effort is still fast and furious, and staff are doing everything we possibly can to make sure that happens. But I don't have confirmation yet. We should know by the end of this week whether the bills that go out for Ebbets Pass service area this month are going to be reflective of accurate consumptive reads or not. We did get all of the meter reads into the system. It's just a question of that data cleanly integrating into the billing system so that it can then turn out the bills. And I'm grossly oversimplifying that because there are a lot of nuances and complexities in that process. And our team, especially Jessica, who had to dive in and take this on mid-project, working with Pat, working with Kevin, and others that have really put a ton of work into trying to make sure this works the way we need it to. It's been an enormous undertaking. So we're optimistic that those bills will go out with accurate reads, but we don't know for sure yet. So I'll keep you posted.
The things that fell out that have to be investigated, is it programming or is it the way that the meters were read or just a whole?
There's several different things going on. There's some of the old meters that are still on the ground that have to be read manually and the data input manually. There's some that are, the majority of them are working the way that it's supposed to work, where the data is collected here in the office. But there's some glitches in that process as well. And then there's others where the network isn't fully set up yet. So we still had to manually read using handheld meter reader. Those, even though they're the new meter, we had to go out and manually read those meters as well. So
So
there's
are
kind
you-
of different categories of meters based on where we are in the installation process. And then getting all that data to integrate cleanly into the billing software so that we can generate bills is quite the undertaking.
So this is a normal conversion because.
You know, I actually, I'm glad you make that point, because this is not, you know, I've never been through this at another agency myself, but it's never easy. You know, there's always implementation challenges with these projects. So I don't think we're outside the norm as far as how these projects go. We knew going into this, it was going to be a long, complicated project, and we're still, you know, in the middle of the implementation phase. So it's not that issues weren't anticipated. We're just trying to get it ironed out as quickly as we can.
We've gone
Get
through this
accurate
process
data.
of changing our software inside the building, and it was a nightmare and let alone all new hardware outside. It's
Yeah, there's a lot of different.
expected to be some problems.
A lot of moving pieces, and there's still more to come. But hopefully after this round, we've got the majority of the meters that are able to read remotely and integrate into the billing software the way it's supposed to work, but we're still working through that process. But we'll do, either way, we'll do some outreach. There, you know, I think I can confidently say, and Pat or Damon, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think we can confidently say there will be some that where even if we get the majority of them, the accurate consumptive data in there, there will be some where that are not, you know, it's still a zero read on consumption for various reasons. We don't know exactly. We don't know what number that is, but hopefully we're working to keep that number as small as we can. But we know there will be some that where the consumptive data will not be in the bill. So
And I want to make sure that our outreach towards our customers is, you know, very well.
So that was the point I was getting to. Yes,
Okay,
we're going to
yeah.
do some outreach depending on where we are at the end of this week. You know, if we're in the situation where we weren't able to integrate the consumptive data into the system at all, and we're doing zero consumptive billing again, then we'll make sure we get that message out. If it's only a small number, which is what we're shooting
Hoping.
for,
Uh-huh.
in some ways it makes it harder because you have to target that, you know, somehow you have to target that group of people. But we'll work on public outreach as soon as we know which way this is going to cut later this week.
Okay, because we made a lot of promises.
Yeah, and we're still going to deliver on all those promises. It's just a question of when, I think, is the issue. So and communicating throughout, even if we're not there this week, but hopefully we will be. We had a really lengthy, productive discussion in Finance Committee last week on a whole range of topics. I think it was a 3-hour-long Finance Committee meeting where we covered a lot of ground. We talked a fair amount about cybersecurity and other IT issues. We're really trying to ramp up on that front to make sure we're learning from past experiences that we've had, getting ahead of the game as far as cybersecurity protection goes. It's a really hot topic among other agencies and JPIA right now. So we're trying to get out in front of that. Brandon's doing a great job doing everything he can, but we know right now, and something we discussed in the Finance Committee meeting, just that we're short-staffed on the IT side. So we're going to bring it back to Finance Committee again next month with an issue, or with a discussion item to discuss how to address that issue, and then hopefully bringing it back to the full board at the second meeting in March. But we know we're going to have to dedicate some additional resources to address the cybersecurity and other IT issues that we're facing. Enormous amount of work. I think I've mentioned this every meeting for the last couple of months, but just a huge amount of work going into the capital improvement program that we'll be presenting to the engineering committee at next week's meeting. And we're also putting a lot of work into the financing plan to figure out how the best way to pay for infrastructure improvements in the short term, and then looking at a 2 to 3 year time frame, and then out to the 5-year time frame. All that will be useful as we go into our next rate schedule. So that presentation to the engineering committee, sorry, next week. And then we've gone back and forth. I know we used to approve the CIP in March timeframe, and then move on to budget development. Last year, instead of actually adopting the CIP, we brought them. We had it developed. We presented it in March, and then we brought it both together to the board in June for adoption at the same time. So I think we're kind of still evaluating how we want to proceed on that front, but we'll have the CIP presentation to the board next month in any event. And Director Thomas, you're looking at me like you'd like to say something about that. Oh,
No.
sorry.
I'd
misread
raise my
your-
hand. No,
I misread the,
I'm just listening
The look.
intently.
gotcha. Couple of public notices that are out right now that we're planning for the next board meeting. We've got capacity fee updates for Copper Cove Water and Wastewater, Copperopolis Water and Wastewater, and Jenny Lind and La Contenta Water Wastewater. So that public notice is out, and then also the redistricting notice is out, and we sent out a press release. We have a web page up on our website and a press release that links to that web page with information on the redistricting. So we're anticipating both of those at the March 9th meeting, I think it is.
Did you say March 9th?
Yes, yeah. Let's see. We had a really good, and this is an item, it's been several months since the board approved the Sheep Ranch water supply master plan study that we approved earlier this year, or earlier this fiscal year. Loomis is the engineering firm that we selected to do that work, and they've made a substantial amount of progress. We had sort of a I don't know, progress update presentation from them to staff. Really good dialogue, and it's to me, I think it's probably shaping up, because even though Sheep Ranch is our smallest water service area, the issues that we're addressing in that master plan really impact the whole at its pass service area, and they're pretty significant, complex issues. I could see this becoming sort of a workshop with the board rather than, because we spent, I think, 2 to 3 hours just on a preliminary review of where they are, and we didn't even get into some of the issues that they're going to be bringing back. So I could see that evolving into sort of a study session with the board on those water supply issues. So we don't have it scheduled just yet, but something just to forecast for you that there is a lot of work going on that effort, and we'll be bringing back pretty thorough discussion to the board on that. I think probably the last thing I have is the announcement that UPUD has hired a new general manager. and it's not in Eltringham for the first time in, I don't know, 50 years or so. And her name is Summer Nicotero. She is currently the assistant CAO here at Calvert County. She's only been at the county, I think, about a year. And she's super impressive, really sharp. My only concern about it is she had just started working with us in the East Side GSA on behalf of the county, which we were excited that was a positive development for the GSA. So we'll lose her from the GSA, but I think, you know, if I were given the choice of having her 100% focused on UPUD and Highway 4 water issues, or, you know, 5% focused on the GSA, I'd take the former. So I think it's, you know, she brings a, you know, really just the skill set that UPUD needs, and to kind of move into a new era. So I'm really optimistic about Summer and looking forward to working with her.
She have a water background?
She does. She comes from a utility background. She worked for PG&E, I think, most recently before she went to the county. Before that, she worked for Tridam, though. She was finance director at Tridam. And before that, at one point, she worked for Hetch Hetchy, and I don't recall exactly what her role was there, but accounting finance is a strong accounting finance background.
And they hired her anyway?
Yeah, I know.
That sounds great. Wow.
Yeah, I think I was really impressed. I sat in on the interview panel for the first round of interviews, and yeah, I think she's going to be fantastic. So.
Hey, Michael,
Yes.
since you're talking about hiring or somebody, what's going on with the director of finance?
Yeah,
That
good
what's the
question. I
plan?
didn't have that listed here, but so that job posting has been circulated. We took a little bit of time to evaluate, as we tend to do when we have a vacancy, unless it's obvious, we know we need that position filled, you know, just as it is. We did got some input from staff as to whether we needed to make any changes to the job description or to the structure of the admin services department. In the end, we ended up not making any changes, but it was a useful process because it helped to give us some insight from staff as to what we should really focus on in the selection process, in the interview process. So we got a lot of good information from staff by doing that. But we have now circulated the position and without making any major changes to the job description or the structure. And so we're just starting to get applications in, and we're going to review on an ongoing basis and interview as soon as we have a handful of candidates, but we're going to be very selective. We're going to take as much time as we need. We're very grateful to have Jeff as we, you know, because right now we have just a huge amount of work on the finance side. You know, we're doing a lot of work on developing the CIP and identifying infrastructure financing. We're obviously going into budget development. We have arrearage funding coming in that we need to figure out how to allocate. We have rate study coming up. We just have an enormous amount of work on the finance side that can't wait. And none of it, you know, we're not going to wait to hire to work on all those different fronts. So we're in a good position with Jeff, with Catherine and Kelly, all of the different folks, and Jessica, that all have, you know, they're fully up to speed now and can help with all of those different efforts. So we're fortunate to be in a position where we can take as much time as we need to find, you know, the right fit, and we're gonna do that.
With that being said, how many hours does Jeff work, and are we paying employee or consultant? And what do we pay for compared to if we had a director of finance?
So you're breaking up, but I think the question was, how many hours is Jeff working and the cost? Is that?
That's good enough, sure.
Yeah. So we've been pretty pretty conservative with Jeff's time so far. I think that's going to ramp up here in the next month or so. As we dive into all of those efforts, especially, initially it was until Rebecca came back. Now we know we've really got to tackle those efforts with the team that we have right now. But I don't anticipate, we'll bring this back to the finance committee if we think that there's going to be a budget, if we're going to go over budget in admin services. But I think that it's going to be sort of a wash on that front. It's not how we want to staff the position long-term. But I think just based on the way we've had some vacancies in admin services, and I think based on the way things have played out over the course of this fiscal year, we won't need a budget adjustment for Jeff's time. But if that changes, we'll certainly bring that back to the finance committee and the board and keep you posted.
So is he as a consultant then, and does he get paid hourly?
Well, this,
or do we
this
have
isn't
like
an
a
agendized,
weekly-
this isn't an agendized item. I don't know how deep we can go into this with discussion with the
Yeah,
board.
and we can bring this back. We can agendize it for the finance committee. But yes, Jeff is as a consultant on an hourly
Okay.
contract. Yes.
Okay, thank you. If we can agendize that, I'm just kind of curious.
No problem.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Just for clarification, contract is with Hilltop Securities, not with Jeff Meyer.
Correct. Okay, thank you. Anything else, Michael?
I believe that's all I have. We did make some progress. You may have noticed on the mask mandate COVID front. We've relaxed to the extent the state will allow us to do. And I was able to enjoy that for a few days before I had an exposure to somebody. So that's why I'm wearing a mask today, and just out of an abundance of caution. But yeah, we have had already changed our COVID prevention plan. It seems like every few weeks the regulations change and we change to adapt to that. So
It's great to see smiling faces in the room, or just smiles. All right, you're going to do board reports, information, future agenda items. Director Thomas?
I just want to point out that the abbreviation for abundance of caution is AOC, so.
Thank you for that. Director Davidson, you have anything as important to report?
Well, I just want staff to remember, if I happen to have a cat that gets stuck in a tree or some Christmas lights time, remember who voted yes.
Well, you did have a lion, or what did you have?
I was able to get him out of the tree.
Oh,
Again, thank you for the pertinent information, Director Davidson. Director Underhill, do you have anything maybe related to CCWD?
Oh, excuse me. Okay, this was a couple of sad announcements. I don't know if anyone remembers George Segarini from Tuolumne County.
Oh.
That name doesn't sound familiar. Okay, he passed away, and then someone from UPUD, Mike Carnes, his wife, Lori, works at UPUD, right?
UWPA.
Yeah, so Mike was involved in real estate for many years and he passed away. One of the things that we all flipped through Aqua News, and just to take a look at what's happening. And every year at the spring conference, they hand out the Claire Hill Award. And they also have one for Aqua Excellence in Innovation. I know that we do things, that are innovative, and I know that we do things that would, I think, qualify us for Claire Hill. So are we making sure that we're getting our name out there? It's just, I think it would be a great recognition for CCWD to be even considered for one of those.
Yeah, I think I'll admit that we're probably spread a little bit thin right now. And so once we get through some of the hurdles we're dealing with at the moment and get some of our new staff up to speed and free up some of Jessica's time and some of my time. I think we'll be able to focus more on those things right now. But yeah, we certainly want to get our name out there to the extent we can.
Right, right. And from Abbott's Pass, I want to thank you for, taking into consideration our 10 towers that have to be read, or however you're going to do that in the AMI process.
20, isn't it?
Thank you.
I think that was a wise investment once it works.
That's it.
Okay, Director Cicada?
I don't have anything at this time.
Okay, I have a couple quick items. I'm on a couple of aqua committees later on this week. The local government committee has we're meeting on talking about the teeter program. I guess not many counties are into that, and there's a lot of water districts are looking into recovering their fixed costs related to unpaid water bills. And so it's just something we're discussing. I'd volunteer to be on a discussion group, a working group, and yeah, we're meeting later on this week. And then I'm also on the Federal Affairs Committee, which is pretty serious. They want you to, if you don't show up and you don't have an excuse, you got to find one. But anyway, they're meeting on March 1st. It's a Zoom meeting. That's all I got. I'll report back on those as they develop, as information develops. And with that, we're going to go on to next board meetings are Wednesday.
I have a question for you. I don't think I wrote down on my calendar when that Murphy's event, that wine, women and song type of.
The wine wildfires.
Sure yet. I think
and
we're.
That's still in the, is that the
Planning
one that's still,
stages.
it was supposed to be,
I think we're looking at mid-October
oh,
was
Oh,
the
that-
latest.
that long-
Hold on,
What are you
Russ,
talking
hold on.
We're talking about this Friday. Meet you up there.
You'll be there.
yeah, right now it's
Mid-October.
scheduled for October 6th, but I think there's a conflict.
Yeah, I
Wine,
think it's definitely going to be later in October. We're not 100% sure yet
make
exactly
it-
when, but I think we were looking at the 13th.
wine, wildfire and water.
Okay.
And looking for a fourth W if they can gather it together.
If you moved it to the 31st, it could really be a wild party.
Yeah.
Okay, March 9th is our next meeting here. After that, March 23rd, we're going to go into closed session. 2 items. Item 8A, conference with real property negotiators, CV developers, and 8B, public employee performance evaluation, general manager. Any public comment
Jim.
on our closed session items? Seeing none, we're going to move into closed session.
Thank you.
Rebecca, I got to stay on this phone call, or do I call a different number?
You can stay there. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
Okay, thank you.